Good morning, class. Today, I wanted to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, Magic the Gathering. A game that's been around since 1993 and has recently exploded in popularity, caused by the many collabs with other IPs that have released in the past few years. Given how popular Magic has gotten, I think it's important to remember the core concept of the game and the reason why it is considered the most complicated card game currently. In the words of a great professor, reading the card explains the card. The game has gone through several changes over the years, but one constant has always been that the language used on cards has sometimes been wordy and vague, forcing many to test their language comprehension just to play the game. The game itself is pretty simple. You, as the player, start with 20 life. You cast spells using resources or mana and attempt to defeat your opponent by reducing their life total to 0. The game is usually duels or one-on-ones, but there are other formats that are multiplayer. There are many different types of cards or spells that make up many different types of decks, but for brevity, we're going to focus on wordy cards and cards that interact with each other to make combos. The first card we'll look at is an older card named Necromancy, a very wordy card with convoluted text. But if we break the card down line by line, it becomes easier to understand. The card reads, "You may choose to play Necromancy as an instant. If you do, bury it at end of turn." Now what this means is you can choose to play this as a reaction at instant speed, but if you do, you have to sacrifice the enchantment at the end of the turn. But it also means that if you play it as a sorcery, or on your turn, that it gets to remain on the battlefield. The next part reads, "When you play Necromancy, choose target creature card in any graveyard. When Necromancy comes into play, put that creature into play as though it were just played, and Necromancy becomes a creature enchantment that targets the creature." Alright, so what this means is when Necromancy enters the battlefield, you get to choose a creature card in anybody's graveyard, yours or the opponent's, and you get to put that creature onto the battlefield with Necromancy attached to it, as though it's being enchanted. The last line reads, "If Necromancy leaves play, bury the creature." So, what that means is at any point, if Necromancy were to leave the battlefield, you have to remove or sacrifice the creature that you brought with it. This is a strategy for a lot of different types of players. Some people only need a creature to be on the field for one turn. Some people would like for that creature to be there for a lot longer. It just depends on how you play the card. The next card is a newer card, and it has been the subject of debate among Magic players for being too wordy. Questing Beast. Here we can see another lengthy text box with several keywords that seem daunting, but again, we can decode it line by line. Now, the first line of Questing Beast says, "Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste." Now these are keywords that give the card its abilities. Vigilance, meaning that it does not tap when it's declared as an attacker. Death Touch, meaning that any amount of damage this creature does to another creature is enough to destroy it. And Haste, meaning that it can attack or activate abilities as soon as it enters the battlefield. The next line reads, Questing Beast can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. So that means any creature with power 2 or less can't be used to defend against Questing Beast's attacks. It's pretty good if your opponent is running smaller powered creatures. Great way to evade blocking. The third line of Questing Beast says, combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. In Magic, there's a lot of ways to prevent damage from happening. Questing Beast comes equipped with an ability that helps prevent that. The fourth line reads, whenever Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target Planeswalker that player controls. Planeswalker is a different type of card type that, in the lore of Magic, function as other players that you can play from your library. This Questing Beast is equipped to handle Planeswalkers as much as it's equipped to handle players. Now, let's see an example of a combo. These cards, Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood, are both powerful on their own, but together they form an infinite life loss loop that wins the game on the spot. Sanguine Bond reads, whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. And Exquisite Blood reads, whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Now, working together, they form a cycle. When you just gain 1 life, an opponent loses 1 life. But when an opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. It will just continue on until your opponents have no life. It's a pretty nasty combo. Here's another combo, but this one uses creature effects to generate infinite mana and damage. Malcolm, Keen-Eyed Navigator, and Glint-Horned Buccaneer is a combo that works best in multiplayer formats like Commander, since the loop needs at least 2 other opponents to go infinite. Malcolm reads Flying, which is another keyword and a form of evasion. It's not important for the combo. The second line reads, whenever 1 or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponents, you create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage. Now, Glint-Horned Buccaneer has another keyword, haste, and whenever you discard a card, Glint-Horned Buccaneer deals 1 damage to each opponent. And by paying 1 and a red mana, you can discard a card, draw a card, but you can only activate it as Glint-Horned Buccaneer is attacking. The way the combo works is you have Malcolm out on the field and you play your Glint-Horned Buccaneer. Now, you declare Glint-Horn as an attacker. He goes in. When he attacks, you activate his ability, discard a card, and draw a card. But because you discarded a card, Glint-Horned Buccaneer deals 1 damage to each opponent. Now, Malcolm sees a pirate doing damage to opponents, and so Malcolm will make treasure tokens. In a multiplayer format like Commander, you would hit 3 other opponents and create 3 other treasures. Using the mana from the treasures, you can again activate Glint-Horned Buccaneer because he is still attacking. You discard a card and you draw a card and you deal 3 damage. Malcolm sees that 3 damage makes 3 treasure tokens. Because you are creating 3 treasure tokens for the activation cost of 2, you essentially have infinite treasure tokens and infinite damage. You can draw your entire library and wipe out your opponents by turn 3. We've gone over infinite life loss, damage, and mana. Now let's go over infinite creatures. Siona, captain of the Pylias, and shielded by faith. Both kind of weak on their own, but working together makes an unstoppable board of token creatures. Siona reads, when Siona enters the battlefield, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal an aura card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest to the bottom of your library in a random order. First line's pretty good. Good way to find Shielded by Faith in order to get the combo going. But the second line is what's the most important. Whenever an aura you control becomes attached to a creature you control, you create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Shielded by Faith reads enchant creature. Enchanted creature has indestructible, which means it cannot be destroyed by effects that say destroy. And the last line, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may attach Shielded by Faith to that creature. The way this combo works is you attach Shielded by Faith to Siona. Siona sees an aura become attached to a creature, and she makes a 1/1 white human soldier. Now, when that enters the battlefield, Shielded by Faith will see a creature entering the battlefield, and you can then move Shielded by Faith onto the new creature. Siona sees an aura become attached to a creature, and she, in turns, makes another human soldier. You can continue this loop until you have maybe about 1,000 1/1 humans, and if there's not an answer on the next turn, you just overrun your opponents with your own personal army. Now that we've gone over some interactions that the cards have, we can understand that this simple game can have multiple layers and ways to play. Magic is a game that has been around for about 30 years. Each new card brings a new way to play, and new combos that may have never been seen or used before. But the one thing that will never change about the game is the importance of reading the card and comprehending how that card works. What we've covered today is just a small part in a much larger game, and I hope this lesson will inspire you to give Magic the Gathering a try. It's a game I love, and I'm sure you'll love it too.